Welcome to SEON x Greco. In this episode, we speak to Ozric Vondervelden about their mission to rid the world of bonus abuse and how they named their company, inspired by a Hollywood movie.
I'm Ozric Vondervelden. I am the co-founder and CEO of Greco. So the online gambling industry is unique in that it's one of the only industries that essentially encourages players to join and stay on the site by giving tax-free cash, which makes it a huge target for not only money laundering, but players that see value in these bonuses and are able to repeatedly take advantage of this to generate essentially a long-term and indefinite amount of money. Greco was born out of our experience working against the industry, like many people in security. Our story is one of poacher turned gamekeeper. So we were working against the industry. We later were recruited by the industry, one operator in particular, which led to around 40 consultancy contracts. And through that process, we learned that there was several reasons that operators weren't particularly great at managing risk. So one of those reasons is just having poor metrics. And this was the main stumbling block for us. So we set out essentially to try and solve this problem. With operators, it's an issue that covers multiple departments. So to try and resolve this issue within the industry, it requires development resources, data science resources, and generally getting this kind of consensus is quite hard. So we thought we'd just go and build this ourselves. The name comes from, do you know the film Ocean's 13? It's a really terrible film, but the plot of the film is land-based casinos. They're trying to rob the casino, and they've installed this super technology to essentially identify if players are cheating. So it's looking at things like retina dilation and body temperature and perspiration to basically identify if somebody was expecting a win or if it came by surprise. But there's a couple of reasons. The other is the gameplay risk engine was our initial thought for a name, and if you that turned into GRE, so the GRE company, which turned into Greco. This kind of fundamental data issue that I was talking about, this turned out to not be just an issue for what we're trying to achieve in early detection of risk in gameplay, but they're metrics that are missing from all parts of the industry. You know, these metrics allow operator to make better and earlier decisions about almost everything. So it's switching from this mentality of looking at deposits and withdrawals, wins and losses, you know, and the level of incentivization the player takes, and looking more at the theoretical value of a player, so based on probability. And this exposes players' intentions essentially. Are they looking to just exploit the casino through their bonuses and rewards, or are they a genuine player? What's exciting is that these metrics, you know, they relate to all areas of the business, and really we've built our roadmap or designed our roadmap for the next sort of 2-3 years, but there's everything to rebuild on top of that then. So we started as a consultancy. We work with over 40 operators, and for the vast majority of those, we saved them millions or tens of millions in sort of what would have been lost revenue or lost profits. So we already have a good footing with a lot of the tier 1 operators in Europe, which allowed us to essentially leverage that when we started development on our product. So we started with some beta partnerships, which we see as sort of mutually beneficial in that we can kind of sandbox our ideas and get some feedback, which has allowed us to start with some really great names. But the product that we are building is one that we see as its own vertical, a product vertical that every operator needs essentially. So we're really going after the whole industry. So there's one form of abuse that we analyse for, and it's a process that essentially uses certain content types to store value and undermine wagering requirements. And this is one of our first modules. And we've been quite surprised by the results so far. I mean, one client annualized is 70 million euros in losses. So many of the exploits that exist in the industry exist because of poor infrastructure, whether that's platforms or data. But the biggest pain point is actually the speed at which operators can access data. If you imagine somebody exploiting a casino, you want to act on that really as soon as possible, because if it's left too late, then the player then is able to withdraw those funds. So it's essential for us that we're able to process and set automated actions in real time. So the first operator that I was working for, I was tasked with reviewing their fraud product. So they were using what looked like a Windows 95 system. They were paying tens of thousands of pounds for this system. So I started looking at what other products were available. I looked at maybe 10, 20 products. One of those was SEON, which was still very early at the time. So I called up Tamas, as you do, and essentially spoke about the pain points that I was experiencing, which essentially led to a relationship whereby we were discussing what improvements SEON could make in order to cater to these issues. So that client ended up using SEON. I think that the social enrichment features, particularly in iGaming, stand out as a way of identifying multi-accounting when device fingerprinting fails. So the iGaming industry is unique. In most industries, you have fraud products. In other industries where the regulation enforces it, you have verification products. The iGaming industry is unique in that it also has this added element of gameplay. So there's essentially 3 areas of risk management. And I think that that's a big gap in the industry, and that's really what Greco is looking to fill. The other issue is that this data is quite siloed. So when a player comes onto a platform, they're assessed for risk at registration, but then even if they fall just under that threshold, that risk analysis starts again with a new team, new department. So there's a massive opportunity here for the 3 areas of risk management to essentially communicate, which has the opportunity to benefit all 3 areas of risk management. If you imagine a player coming on, they're just under that risk threshold and they move on to gameplay. Well, with that context, you would have a much shorter, smaller tolerance towards risk when you start assessing their gameplay risks. The other benefit is to the fraud product, in that those risks in the later part of the player journey can be fed back to the fraud product, which generally focuses on registration risk, to improve the machine learning, to improve the rules upon registration. Another thing we focus on is determining the theoretical value of players. And so, whereas currently fraud professionals are kind of working in the dark, they're trying to understand what these behaviours mean. Are they good? Are they bad? With that feedback of information, they can essentially put a value to every data point and every rule that they create.